I used to organize.
Not right now.
Hey, Lorna Restagno, is it possible for you to mute yourself? Ah, thank you. I used to organize the reading challenge every summer at our elementary school, and like I love that part of reading. And I know that that gets everybody in the building excited about reading. But I had one child who thought it was a really fun thing to go to the library and ask for 60 books. And in fact, I even had an email from the librarian saying, we've had to restrict your number of books you can take out. And then on the other hand, my younger one, who is profoundly dyslexic, it was just painful. No, he wanted some books and he wanted me to read them to him. And I was perfectly happy doing that because that was my thing with him. But you can see the enthusiasm in those teachers' eyes about how excited they were getting about reading and encouraging kids to read. But there's some kids that are not going to be able to participate at the same level. And so maybe we could talk a little bit about the reading challenge. Tell us a little bit more about who's involved in it and what's the prize?
Well, that was the whole purpose, not to just get the top reader. The most important thing for me was to get the most improved reader, because that kid who was testing an AR at 0%, to get him to 20 to 30, and he has an opportunity to win something and go on a trip with Brian Jordan, that was motivation enough. And, you know, when I first started thinking about the project, for many of you that saw me on the baseball field, football field, and broadcasting, I'm a children's book writer. I've written 4 children's books, and I cannot believe that I'm an author of children's book, because I was that kid growing up that had no confidence in reading. And my mom was an educator. Now, my mom used to read to me, and I was a visual learner. I would listen and follow along, but she had no clue that I couldn't really identify the words. And in school, I used to put my head down. I used to act sick whenever the teacher's going around asking kids to read. So it was very important for me in this motivation in this reading challenge to share this with the kids, because the amazing thing was, I know for me as a young kid, if anybody would have said, hey, who in here has no confidence in reading, I would have never put my hand up, believe me. But for me to tell my story to the kids, you know, to have them raise their hand because they were like me, it meant so much to me. And I looked at the teachers to make sure that they were watching so that they can identify those kids who were having the same problems that I had, who possibly may have dyslexia, possibly have other issues going on. Because, you know, in public schools, in Douglas County is one of them, they don't have the reading specialists to identify what's going on for these kids. So this program not only motivated the teachers, the one thing I didn't want to do is interrupt their schedule of learning all year long. I just wanted to add to the reading part and motivate and inspire kids to read. And I have the data to prove it. These kids really stepped up to the plate. And the reason that I started out with 3rd grade, this was my first reading challenge. And Trent North, the superintendent there, stepped up to the plate, because I told him my story and I told him what I wanted to do. I got with some of the reading specialists down there, and we really put a playbook together. And everybody was in on it, and it motivated these kids. Now, I probably couldn't do this program exactly like I did this one, because I played so many kickball games for the winning class of 20 different schools that I got a lot of exercise in all year long, and I had to broadcast too. So, you know, it was fun to see the smiles on the kids, the winners, and I made sure each class had to watch the winning class play so it would continue to motivate them. But it was a huge success. And me, I'm a father of a 9-year-old who has dyslexia. And for me, it was so frustrating reading my books to my son and trying to get him to read. And all of a sudden I could see his confidence and he wanted to do something else. And I'm like, come on, let's read. He couldn't identify the words like I could. And me not being a reading specialist, I had no clue. I knew what I went through as a kid. I kind of self-taught myself to where why I'm doing this reading challenge, because I could put books in the kids' hands to take home and have their own library. And I told them how I taught myself was I went one word at a time, one finger at a time. And I read the same book over and over and over until that finger went faster and faster and faster. And then I didn't have to act sick in class anymore. I had enough confidence to start reading in class. I know it doesn't work that way for every kid, but to challenge those kids, I wish somebody would have challenged me when I was young to read. Because as an athlete, you can challenge me in anything and I'm going to step up to the challenge. So it was important for me to challenge these kids. And every kid in Douglas County stepped up to the challenge, whether it was from a 0 to 20% on AR testing, however it may be, those kids stepped up and the data shows it. So this is a program where now I've enhanced it a little bit. Now it's called Rock It Out of the Park Reading Challenge, because I've teamed up with Corey Bowles, the guitar player of the Zach Brown Band, who is a children's book writer. And he's passionate and motivated, just like I am, to change the narrative of our young kids. I heard you, Tina, give the statistic of 17% of readers in third grade, African-American, cannot read. And that number is just staggering. And that's why it motivates me even more to continue these challenges, and not just Douglas County. I want to expand out to every county. I think every county needs it. So I was able to identify, thanks to Jackson Elementary, my son's dyslexia. I was fortunate and blessed to be able to put him in the Shanks School and watch the progress. I mean, it's been incredible, and it's just his first year of his confidence. You know, now he's comes home and wants to read, which excites me, but it also makes me look at how many kids out there, and Sherry, I heard your story, you know, that don't have that opportunity, you know, because of their circumstances. So that is a mission of mine, now Corey Bowles, and we want to put books in kids' hands so they can go home and take it finger by finger. And I am here to support decoding dyslexia because it is so needed in our public schools to have reading specialists there to diagnose these kids so that they have a chance to live, to work, to be smart, and not lose confidence at that very young age that's going to affect them for the rest of their life. So I thank you guys for having me here, Megan. Thank you for inviting me. But this is my mission. This is my heart. And whatever you need me to do, I am here for you guys.
Well, tell us a little bit about your childhood and your clear strength in athleticism. And was it your parents who kind of turned you in that direction, or was it your school that had opportunities for you to participate in school sports and you found your strength there? And the reason why I ask is because there are a number of people who are very, very good at what they do, and they have learning disabilities, specifically dyslexia. And we see that. And like 10 years ago at a CHAD meeting, someone asked about the swimmer, Michael Phelps, and what his mother had done. And I jokingly said she threw him in a pool. Because that was what I did. I was a swimmer growing up, and my mother threw me in the pool. I mean, I started swimming at the YMCA in Buckhead when I was 6 months old. And, you know, that having an outlet where you can be good and proficient and feel good about yourself is vital for kids who have a learning disability like dyslexia, because school can be so hard and challenging and difficult. And recognizing those strengths that a student has are really critical. And you clearly have an athletic talent that supersedes so many people's athletic talents because you're good at two sports.
Well, I'm just going to be honest. I was fortunate and blessed to have a mom and a dad in the house. And a mom who was an educator, my dad was a steel worker. And one thing my dad did not want his kids to be is a steel worker. And so education was so important. I'm also blessed that my parents made me write down my dream when I was a very young kid and taught me how to stay focused on that dream. And my dream, of course, was to be the first two-sport professional athlete. I didn't know which sport it was going to be because I love all sports, basketball being my favorite. So what came along with that was my mom and dad made me write down my goals to reaching that dream. And so I had to really sit down and think about, how am I going to do that? Number one was get my education and go to college and get a degree. And that was mom hammering me over the head on that one. But, education was number one. So I knew if I was able to play sports, I got to make good grades, because my mom and dad would not let me play in the game if I brought a bad grade home. So, they were my motivation. They were my role models. And I had an older brother and sister who I always hung with and messed with. They were 2.5 years older than me. One of my books was I Told You I Can Play, because my brother would never let his little brother play with him. And I finally got my opportunity to play with older kids on a football field. And I scored a touchdown against them. And of course, it hurt. But the moral of the story is, when you get that opportunity, take advantage of it and believe in yourself, because you can get it done. And, that's my story to the kids. You first got to believe in yourself. And if you do that, then the battle is won. And so, I enjoy writing. I don't know how it happened, but I wrote my first book in 2005 at 4:00 in the morning. I woke up with this idea in my head, and it turned out to be I Told You I Can Play. And my second book is called Overcoming the Fear of the Baseball. I was hit in the face and I had a fear. And it's just to motivate kids, to get them to understand that sometimes you're going to have to face your fear and overcome it, whatever it may be. And my third book is Time Out for Bullies. We know how bad bullies are. Well, my mom taught me everything about bullying, because, she was teaching kids special needs kids. And I used to sit in her class and watch her pour her heart and soul into giving these kids hope. And I knew one day that I was going to start a foundation and give kids scholarships and give them hope that they can be successful through my mom. And, so she taught me about bullying. And next thing you know, I write a book, Time Out for Bullying. And I used to protect those, become a friend of those who were getting bullied. And then I don't know where my first chapter book came from, but it's The Adventures of Champ Jr. It's a book about a family of dogs and dogs giving back to homeless puppies. So it's a cute book. I'm working with Kennesaw State because I want to bring that book to life in animation and augmentation. So I'm having a lot of fun with it, and I expect to write plenty more children's books along the way.
Well, and the world needs more children's books that share a tale of struggle and overcoming struggle.
Yes.
And kids need to hear that from other sources, because kids are ultimately very resilient and they need to hear that message. So more books, no more playing.
No more playing.
Okay. Do you play golf?
Fun.
Do you play golf?
Yes,
instead?
I love golf. Yes, I do.
Okay. So do you play with like Smoltz and Glavin? And
I'm not that good. Pitchers used to have it easy. I never played golf when I played baseball. So
We know people who live up in Alpharetta, and they've got golf stories from all the Braves
Yes,
players who live up there.
they love it.
They do. What are your foundation has initially hit Douglas County, but you'd like to hit other counties. What is there a geographic area that you'd like to target, or is it everybody?
No, it's everybody. I've every county, every elementary school needs it, and so I'm just open to anywhere. I got meetings with the mayor in Augusta. I got meetings in Cobb County, city of Atlanta. I've talked to about it. Just when COVID-19 hit, it's really shut down everything going on in school. So, which I understand. Hopefully this year we can get back to getting into schools and motivating and inspiring kids.
Yeah, Hillary Laxon, who's on, but not on screen, she's our host today of this meeting, pointed out that Georgia has a lot of military bases, and she's our Decoding Dyslexia military liaison for Georgia. So that would be another opportunity to dig in there, because military schools hit all sorts of kids coming in, and they're coming and going, unfortunately, because of
Right.
military transitions. But yeah, we would love to help connect you to the right people to make that work, because there are
Awesome.
a lot of really cool initiatives that are going on in the state. L4GA is the former Striving Readers Grant. So they're tied into communities that want to spend state grant money that's coming from the federal government on improving reading in their communities. And so it's a community-based effort. And some of the districts are taking teachers and training them in letters, which is a reading background program that Sherry's taking right now.
Okay.
And so let's talk offline about that, because that's a really interesting thing.
Yes, I mean, I'm excited about Corey Bowles jumping on board, because we're going to kind of tie music and sports together and just have some fun with it. Hopefully do some fundraisers down the line with the Zach Brown band, and so we can put the books in the kids' hands. So that's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And I didn't get to read it, but I saw a study coming across my email this week about the efficacy of programs that put books in the hands of kids. And the efficacy is high. Even if you've got a child who has a learning disability, getting the books in their hands is having a positive effect.
Right. Very important. Just like it taught me to read that same book over and over, the chance that these kids can have that. I know Corey and myself, we made up videos of us reading a book to these kids, so they get to play the video and then sound it out themselves. So that is the key.
Another fun thing, I think it's called Storylines, is the Screen Actors Guild has a whole bunch of actors who have read stories similar to that. Maybe we could host some of your recordings on our Decoding Dyslexia YouTube page.
Awesome. Yes.
Yeah, that would be amazing, because we just need to keep at it. I'm not sure whether we have any legislators on right now. Their session was running a little bit late today because they have a lot of bills that are in the hopper. But one of the points of bringing everybody together at lunchtime was to talk about reading, dyslexia, legislation, SB 48. SB 48, Brian, you may not know all of the contours of the legislation, but in May of 2019, Governor Kemp signed it. It was a bipartisan bill that put in place a pilot program for screening for dyslexia, screening for the characteristics of dyslexia, and providing interventions. So there are 7 school districts that are participating in that right now. 8 were chosen: Atlanta Public Schools in conjunction with Skank School, wound up dropping out of the pilot because they have a brand new school superintendent who came in midway through the pandemic. So they decided not to participate. It provided for the Dyslexia Handbook, which is a start. Not my favorite work of handbookery, but it provides a roadmap for schools to get started. And one of the things that we need to start doing is getting more schools to acknowledge that they have the handbook, because it needs to be in teachers' hands. It does not need to be sitting on an administrator's to-do pile. And we have the feeling that that's where that is for a lot of people who received the one bound copy for their school. The other is that the Professional Standards Commission put together a dyslexia endorsement, and we are encouraged that the Professional Standards Commission put that in place in the very beginning of 2020. And the RESAs, the Regional Educational Service Agencies, there are 16 of them, and they are creating and pushing out to teachers the dyslexia endorsement credentials. And as Matt Carter mentioned in the chat a little while ago, Valdosta State University is offering the dyslexia endorsement for an in-service teacher. And there are also other programs at Kennesaw State University, I believe, has one. University of Georgia's program was the one upon which the endorsement was created. And then lastly, we have the state rule that just got put into place last Thursday for a pathway for SST special student teams to go through the RTA process or MTSS process. And I apologize for all of the acronyms. I've had to learn an entire new language since my student was diagnosed 9 years ago, because I didn't speak edu jargon, and there's a lot of it, and it catches parents off guard with so many words and so many acronyms. But the MTSS is the multi-tiered supports and services that schools are using to identify students who might have disabilities. So there's a lot going on with that. We needed to get SB 48 funded, and it came into being with a small amount of funding, which the state spent on the printing and dissemination of the single copy of the books. They also hired a person who manages that process and is kind of the gatekeeper for dyslexia information at the state level. But we, bad timing, asked February 28th of last year for a fiscal note to be added to SB 48 so that there would be money attached for districts to pay for the screening of students. And so one of the things that parents need to be talking to their legislators about is making sure that they understand that SB 48 cannot be an unfunded mandate. Unfunded mandates from the state do not get heard by schools. And there are 181 educational agencies in the state. So it's really vital that we communicate with our school districts and our schools about these things, because without it, there's no liftoff. And I'm wondering, Hillary, do you know if there are any legislators on? Any legislators want to raise their hand?
There weren't a minute ago, but let me look again.
Okay. Is there a raise your hand feature available?
Yeah, if they know how to do that.
I think there's one thing we've all learned in 2020 is how to use Zoom.
I don't see anyone, but not
Okay.
everyone has their name on, so it's kind of hard to tell.
Okay. Well, that's one of the biggest things. Brian, what else can we share beyond your enthusiasm for the reading program. I'm jazzed about that because it gives, one of the things is that it would give us an opportunity to have a brief discussion with the school and, for example, give the red flag checklist to every school. That's one of the things that we did back in February. We took a handful of advocates down to the RISA leader meeting in Forsyth, Georgia, and the dyslexia resource very fabulously gave us 1,000 copies of the red flag checklist, which is right here, for us to give to RISA leaders, because that's a way for them to reach these schools, given that there are 181 school districts in the state, which is just mind-boggling, because Maryland, I think, has 13.
Right. Mhm. Well,
Sorry.
I know for me, as I went through this reading challenge with Douglas County, there's just such a frustration of, having reading specialists in every class. And I think that's something that, I hear you with the handbook, these schools have the handbook, but how can we figure out, and talking with state legislation, geez, how can we get more reading specialists in these public schools to diagnose these kids early? We have to find a way to make that happen. Although my reading challenge was great, I loved it. There's so much more that needs to be done to help these kids, save these kids, because we're losing them very young. And once you can't get them past third grade, when I learned that they're building jails based on third grade reading, that's exactly why I wanted to start with third grade with Douglas County. Now, next year with Douglas County, I'm gonna start with first graders, because we gotta get first graders reading and up to par before third grade. But I wanted to see where we were as third graders. And wow, I mean, it was an eye opener to me in so many lower income areas in Douglas County that they have no chances. Even though they improved, kids still weren't hitting that 85. And I'm not a big believer in the AR testing, the way they do it, but so many of them are not even coming close to that 85% that it concerns me. It's like, come on, open your eyes. We need reading specialists in each of these public schools. When you got 24 students in a class and one teacher, it's no way they can get the attention that they need to be successful. So that's something else that I'm really looking forward to fighting for.
Well, and one of the things that I know that our economy took a huge hit, and because of COVID, and we've bounced back a little. It's not full by any stretch of the imagination, and I imagine that things are going to drag out for a while before we really see what's going on. But one of the things is that we do have CARES Act money coming into the state from the federal government. And one of the things that I noodled on is that it would be amazing if we could get the teachers who take the dyslexia endorsement, because they have to pay for it out of their own pocket and they have to do it on their own time. But if we could reimburse, it doesn't even have to be 100%, but if we could make some good faith reimbursement to the teachers who show an interest in and take the dyslexia endorsement, it would improve the likelihood that there is somebody in the building who knows a little bit about dyslexia and who could help intervene for those students. And that's where partnering with the RISAs to make sure that their dyslexia endorsements are hitting all the high notes and using the right curriculum is so important, because you can go off the rails pretty quickly if you're not diving in deep to learn more about what the science of reading means. And one of the difficulties that we're seeing in the last few months is that the publishers of balanced literacy curricula are starting to hear about science of reading, and they're starting to try and co-opt it into their programming and their messaging. And that is, the two don't mix. It's oil and water. So I'm hopeful that over time we can continue developing our relationships with the RESAs and getting the word out to these 181 LEAs that you have struggling readers in your building, and we need to work on this, because if we don't work on this together, the goals of this state are never going to be achieved. The employers that laud us for being so good at business must surely be shaking their heads when their kids aren't learning how to read in school. So it is 12:55, and Lauren, I see Lauren is mentioning she's drilling down in budgets, looking for where the money is being spent, because state districts are paying for small fortunes, it feels like, to publishing companies that are not teaching kids how to read. And I mentioned this earlier, our Georgia NAEP scores have remained flat since 1992. And so this is an opportunity to change the trajectory, change the conversation, and see where we can take things. Change is hard. Not gonna lie, change is hard, and it's wonderful to have allies like you, Brian, who are willing to get into a community and share your story and do some of the hard work.
Mm-hmm. Well, like you said, change is hard, but we just got to stay with it, and we got to put pressure on the right people that's going to make those decisions. Because I heard you say it earlier, you know, how the lower income communities get better if you're not investing in the kids now, so that they are in a position where they can get jobs and they can learn and get educated. So, I mean, it's a problem that, you know, we just got to keep fighting for. And you have my support as you move forward, Tina, and everybody else, because this is my mission, you know, to improve the reading of these kids and make it fun and see these kids be successful.
Well, it looks like we're close to almost 1 o'clock, which is just remarkable. This went by in a flash. I want to thank everybody who's been involved in the behind the scenes of this event. Our community partners for 2021 have been nothing but outstanding, and they include both parents and organizations and schools in the state who have our mission at heart. And so I am just, yeah, I see Megan says, go share all of our videos on social media. Absolutely. And we will, as soon as, oh, the other thing, sign up for the Montag lecture and hear Sherry and Missy's stories with Emily Hanford. Those things are posted on our Facebook page, but I will make an effort to post them again. And let's keep chipping away at this. I am so sad that we didn't get to be at the Capitol and have that energy and sandwiches and shake hands with legislators and take pictures and all the fun things that we get to do. But this has been an absolutely phenomenal effort on everyone's part, and from the bottom of my heart, thank you. And thank you to Brian Jordan for being here and being a part of this, because this is just nothing short of remarkable to have you share your story with us.
Thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it, and know that I'm in the fight with you guys.
I'm so delighted. So I don't know if we want to wrap it up here. I think we were going to leave it open until 1:15, but it looks like we have 36 participants who probably have growling stomachs and maybe thirsty at this point. So maybe we sign off. Hillary, do you want to show the video of the kids one more time?
There's 2 left.
Yeah, this is from last year.
If it'll play. What the heck? Okay, stop sharing. Let's share again, just for fun. It's the same page that worked 3 other times earlier.
Oh, okay.
Here, we'll see if this one will play.
I have a superpower. I have a superpower. I have a superpower. I think differently. I see the world differently. I'm a dreamer. I am a builder. I am a creator. I'm an actor. I am an innovator. I am a boundary breaker.
I am a difference maker.
I think outside the box. What box? There is no box. Not with me. I have no limits. I can do anything.
Anything I put my mind to.
My brilliant mind.
My dyslexic mind.
Yes. We are brilliant.
Yes, we can do anything.
Do you know who else saw things differently?
Do you know who else had a brilliant dyslexic mind?
Albert Einstein. Charles Schwab. Muhammad Ali.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Galileo. Henry Ford.
Richard Branson.
Spike Lee. Thomas Edison.
Harry Belafonte.
Steven Spielberg. Annie. Annie. Annie.
Do not underestimate me.
Do not sell me short.
Do not tell me I can't.
I just need you to help me learn to read. With evidence-based reading instruction. Evidence-based? Yes, evidence-based.
Evidence-based, as in based on what science tells us about how most children learn to read.
Help me learn to read.
With the science of reading.
And watch me grow my wings. Watch me fly.
Watch me soar.
Watch me change the world.
Because I can do anything. With my brilliant dyslexic mind.
And with that, I think we can say sayonara to Dyslexia Day 21. Thank you to everyone who joined in, and keep tweeting, keep reaching your legislators, make sure your schools have the handbook in hand, all the good things. I hope everyone has a fantastic afternoon. It is such a beautiful day outside, and I have carpool.